Hello, everyone. My name is Sterling Maurice Carter, and I'm the director for the short film documentary Our Voices, The Sounds of the Silence. When putting this project together, I wanted to accomplish a few things. One, to deconstruct the false narratives that plagued how people viewed the protests, not only worldwide, but in Columbus, Ohio last year. I also wanted to show love and pay homage to a group that has not always been shown the love, respect, and the thanks that they deserve. My hopes, and after you view this film, is that you gain a deeper appreciation for the unmatched determination, resiliency, and love that Black women have shown for decades on decades, and that you are encouraged to join in the fight, to realize that although our protests may be different, it is all meaningful and we all have a voice. Thank you. It came to my own personal development and film development. I personally set out a goal to put out a couple of documentaries in 2020. When COVID happened and everything started going on with the protests, I had to pivot. What really led me to approach this the way that I did was I found myself seeing parallels in when I tried to express to people on social media and some of my peers about why we were protesting, and we as in Black people. And then when I started looking on social media, I started seeing some of my friends who are Black women expressing some of their frustrations and pain on how they were being treated. And I saw that in some form or fashion, we were gaslighting them as I was being gaslit. So I felt that. One, I needed to check my privilege. And when it came to the fight for the intersectionality of civil rights and gender rights, I still had a lot to learn. So the last thing I wanted to do was try to put me in this project. And I felt that sitting down and talking with real people, the authenticity of actually being out in the protests, a documentary would have been the most effective way to convey that. Came to what I wanted to highlight, I felt that it was important for people to see how Black women were leading the charge at these peaceful protests. They were on the megaphones, they were leading the charge, they were marching in the front, and I thought that was amazing. Another thing that I wanted to do was to really show the realness. I didn't want to emphasize on all of the things that we've seen countless again, because I believe in a thing called trauma. And I think that when you constantly see yourself getting shot, abused, and battered, you start to take that on. So my hopes was to show the diversity, the uniqueness, to change the false narratives of what was going on at these peaceful protests. In fact, I actually had someone say to me that as a white person, I feel that I couldn't go to a Black Lives Matter protest. But when you go to the protests out here in Columbus, Ohio, you see people of all different races and genders. The biggest creative challenge for me was just trying to figure out where to start, how I wanted to tell the story. The things that we're seeing in the media, the big bad media, is not anything new under the sun. And I think there was trauma and frustration with feeling like all hope was lost. There was a lot that I still need to learn, and I'm still learning about the intersectionality that women continue to fight for when it comes to gender and civil rights. So I wanted to be very delicate and respectful about telling their story, but also about the images that I showed. I did not want to cross that line of exploiting and showing things just to get a reaction, or I didn't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So it was really just trying to balance all that. Practically, though, it's just trying to maneuver through a new way of living. Things being shut down, people being mad about things being shut down, people continuing to get shot, going to protests. Is something going to happen at this protest? How do I maneuver? How do I reschedule? Where's my money going to come from? Dang, I lost a couple friends. Dang, I lost some family. I personally also ended up getting COVID. So a lot of things that I had scheduled had to be moved out the way. And then
Understanding that it's a risk. Whatever you do, it's a risk. So practically, it's just not being afraid and being able to maneuver through that. That was another challenge. The local artists that inspire me, there's plenty of them. I do want to personally shout out Marshall Shorts, the work that Maroon Arts Group is doing, King Arts Complex. If I was to name everybody else, we'd be here for a while. But I truly feel that Columbus, Ohio is just a hub of very talented, amazing, dope photographers, videographers, just creators in general. So definitely check us out. When it comes to some famous people, though, I'm a big fan of some actors like Denzel and Marlon Wayans. But when it comes to directors, I'm really a fan of Antoine Fuqua, John Singleton, rest in peace, Spike Lee, Ava DuVernay, Issa Rae, Barry Jenkins, Edgar Wright, Gina Prince Brightwood. All those are very, very phenomenal people.
I think it's important for us to look at the lives of African American women and to understand that in order for society as a whole to be complete, we have to include those voices.
And in order to properly direct people to know what to do, we have to know the demon that we're dealing with. We have to know the institution or the system that we're dealing with. If we're not really clear with how something operates, it's very difficult to actually create transformation.
Black women, Black girls are in danger just by being.
We fall victim to patriarchy. As Black people, we fall subject to the reign of white supremacy in the world. In that way, I think Black women are double cursed and double gifted.
From my perspective, we're either ignored, pushed aside, or abused.
We see it for what it is because we end up in the losing position of both those dichotomies.
It is not okay to take your foot and place it upon someone's neck who's already removing another boot off of their back. And that is oftentimes where I see with how we treat Black women.
In the larger scale, if any part of my person is attacked, I'm going to protest about it.
We have to be able to understand the dynamics and the richness of the experience of African American women, and not as a stereotype, but rather as they are lived on a daily basis.
When the world stops, the one thing that becomes in the forefront is the art.
I would actually say that the arts within the African American community are not becoming a voice for social change, but have always been a voice for social change.
The news headlines are the core of what inspires me to do the work that I do. You're being challenged to think about something, to address something.
And in dance, I can turn death and make it beautiful. And I make happy things seem like a breath of fresh air. With trauma, there is art, because it is the only way to bleed beautifully.
There's so many things through history that have talked to war and the strife in the world that artists have done for themselves, really. It comes from I need to do this thing. And it turns into the inspiration for a movement.
Art just makes people feel, and sometimes it helps people escape. Art is there to give you what you need, or even what you didn't think you needed.
But we keep doing it because we don't want you a part of this club. Can y'all understand that?
I think that people wanted to express themselves, but a lot of people wanted to express the anger that they felt. Every artist, I would think, would hope, especially this year in Columbus, that the work that they did in the streets, on the murals, spoke to someone that can trigger something larger.
Are the cultural and social institutions that are supposed to be for all prepared to recognize the arts as a voice for social change?
The power is there, and art has been there every step of the way to keep us all going.
I'm really concerned about right now, as I look around at these various injustices and the responses to them, is that throughout U.S. culture, There simply exists a profound ignorance about our respective histories and cultures and experiences.
I've been out in the streets in the way that I know that I can do, and that is to try to shift from anger to hope and make art that helps people do that in some way.
There's built a resilience, a type of thing that we call strength, a degree of superhumanness. What we fail to realize is in that labeling, it becomes this other way of dehumanizing. And when we talk about the capabilities that we have, are we allowing space for vulnerability? Are we allowing space for care?
When I left, or even during the day, I kept coming outside and I'm looking up into the sky and I'm asking God to give me.
It's an ongoing thing and it continuously defeats and breaks at us every time.
So if you're tired, go sit down for a while, but please come back or help someone else come back. I think walking away entirely is not something any of us can or will do.
Yes, we need to talk about, Black women as warriors, but we also just need to talk about Black women as mothers, Black women as sisters, yes, community leaders, but also Black women as homemakers. We represent a full continuum. All of that needs to be captured. It's not just about having the voices, but it's being able to use the voices to transform the institutions, because we do bring a different experience based on prioritizing different values.
I like being Black. I enjoy being a woman. We have a thriving culture even within ourselves. Some of them born out of our pain for sure. But we are finding our way to joy despite the fact that there are people who are dismayed by our happiness.
That in light of so much of what we've experienced, still being able to come back and to be able to provide the nurturing, the caring, the support, almost an endless capacity to love that is essential for us as individuals and a community to be able to thrive.